Wait. Something in my mouth. Great.
Oh, live and unmuted.
All right.
Hello,
It
everybody.
is 6:41 p.m. October the 15th, 2025. So this meeting of the Community Board to Housing and Land Use Committee is called to order. My name is Eugene Yu. I am Chair of the Land Use and Housing Committee. With me is Katie.
Katie Bordenaro, Vice Chair.
If we could just quickly go around.
Anita Brandt.
Sean Sweeney. Barbara Cabono. Arturo Fernandez.
And then online.
David Gruber.
Okay. And Carter Booth, you're on mute.
Thank you.
You're muted, Carter. We were just doing a quick introduction.
I'm here too.
Okay. All right. And welcome, everyone. We have one item on our agenda, which is our discussion of the FY27 district needs statement and our budget priorities also for FY27. We'll get started. This is a continuation of our discussion from our last land use meeting. I want to update the committee, or we want to update the committee. We did promise to follow up with some of the agencies on some of the feedback that they had given us. And so we had a very productive meeting with CPC, correct?
Correct.
Yes, with CPC, and talking about, I guess, their feedback and also some of their comments on the budget priorities process. I think some of the things that they told us were informative. So first of all, they did want to mention that they do read these and they do understand that, even though we sometimes seem to get the same responses back from city agencies that it's not in budget, or, there's no way that this can possibly be added, that there is value in us repeating and submitting the same request year over year to identify that it is a continued priority for the community board. It helps them when they turn around and ask for funding, because typically it's because a lot of these are not funded, but it helps them to identify and say, for example, Manhattan 2 has asked for XYZ the last 4 years running. It's been on the top of their list. We see that this is a priority for them, and it helps them find funding or find ways to make part of those happen. And so that was heartening to hear. Any other?
Well, I think they were giving us some tips. And one of them was to make a direct declaratory statement. So I read them, the declaratory statement we made in one of them last year, and they said, oh, that's exactly right. So I said, okay, so we are doing the right thing, and that was good to know. They also suggested giving it a price tag, but I think we pushed back on that and said, we're
not really.
This isn't.
How would we know?
Yeah.
Wouldn't know.
No, so we left it there, but I have here starred, leave it on for multiple years. This is very important. And even if we said, no, or punted it this year, keep it there, because eventually it might come to the top of their list.
Yeah, and also just, the fact that it has made the cut, right? Internally, that it's made the cut from CB2, that it makes it one of the top 3 requests from, the community board, and then having that push forward. That is a statement in and of itself. Go ahead.
And we did talk about our capital budget priority, number 1, 2 Howard Street. And they were happy to get a little more detail, I guess, on it.
So, 2 Howard Street, they acknowledge I have a niche request. It's not a common request because, this is, we're talking about, and for those that may not know, 2 Howard Street is the garage that's sitting at Howard and Lafayette. It is under the control of the GSA. It's being used as a multi-story garage. But over the years, we've heard that it's not completely well used. You can walk by it and see that it's not full. And we've had,
I've seen a car go in
I
there.
never have either.
yeah.
Walked by there 100 times.
I don't see any.
But it's owned by the city. That's.
No, it's owned by the federal government.
Oh, the
It's owned by the
federal, that's
federal
the key
government.
part though.
Right, it's owned by the
It's not
federal
owned by
government.
Private.
Right. But we've had conversations over the years with, have we had conversations with Schumer?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah,
It was brought
Schumer's
up at
office.
a meeting with Chuck Schumer many years
And,
ago.
you know, I think it's bounced around between the representatives in terms, because it's right on the border. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was at a Soho meeting with Goldman.
Yeah.
And Goldman, and we made him aware of it last week.
Okay.
Good.
One interesting thing that we were told is that maybe we might want to look for other precedents where there's been a transfer of a property, not necessarily maybe from the federal government, but from the state government or from federal to state. And, you know, where the state then turns around and allocates it to the city or conveys it to the city in some way. So there's multiple ways that this can happen, but we may want to look for other precedents in the city that, you know, over the years where there's been a property that's been ultimately conveyed to the city. And we could investigate how that's been done and what agencies are involved.
By the feds.
Again, yeah, by the feds or, you know, or state property that's conveyed to the city.
School over on, you know, in Hudson, a few years ago. What's the name of that school?
Morton? Which one?
Yeah.
Morton Street?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
75 Morton.
That's right.
It was a
'Cause
state. It came from the.
Yeah.
that's right. It was a
Oh,
state
okay.
facility. They
And-
mentioned something in the CB4 to talk to CB4, but we've already done it here. We could use that
Yeah.
blueprint. Thank you, Bo. Yeah.
I remember, we over.
Yeah, it was a big fight.
Owned by the GSA, maybe we can get them to use their design excellence program.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think our difficulty has always been, since this is our request goes to the city, right? Where do we target it within the city when it's a federal property? And the city agencies have told us it's premature. But, you know, we may want to,
Oh, and there was also the sanitation lot on Houston and around,
the west side,
no, east side.
Oh.
You know where,
About the salt.
not the salt shed, that's. the
no,
west side.
no. Houston and Crosby, or the next one, maybe east. It was owned by the,
Con Edison or something, MTA. You're talking
I
about
think it was MTA. It was owned by MTA,
Yeah,
but they sold it,
substation.
they gave it away.
Oh,
They
that's-
sold it to a private.
pie-shaped, it's a pie-shaped site.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it comes to a point.
Yeah, but they sold it to a private developer, but it was the MTA.
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, I like the
Yeah.
75 Morton Street
Yeah,
very
that's
much.
75
A
more.
lot of people are, that's like the most analogous, I think. It's a big piece.
Yeah,
Came over.
Now it's from the state.
That was a state facility.
Yes, but also all the electeds were on board with it.
Oh, that was, yes.
You weren't fighting with, they were all, it was just getting it done that was hard, but everybody wanted to do it.
Mhm.
Yeah, but it was the mechanism and that's what,
Yeah, how
that's
to do it.
that's what's at play here.
Right.
Yeah, okay, that's
It's like
great.
we have a really good shot at this one.
Yeah,
We'd
I
like to
would
move it
think.
along.
Everybody should do their part, I say.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
right.
But didn't Marte, didn't he, isn't that part of the deal for Elizabeth Street Garden?
what?
Using that side for affordable housing?
That's,
Well,
Well, it
it's
certainly
private.
should be anyway. I don't know if he can make a deal about
It
that.
wasn't part of the deal.
No,
No, it's not part of Elizabeth Street Garden now.
No.
No?
No, it's all.
I mean, the,
No, they've moved it over to another.
You're far away from Soho.
Okay,
We got nothing.
so, you know, so that was our priority for last year. And are we going, you know, are we
yeah,
going
why
to
don't we
think
go
about
through?
what, keeping it on? Or I think we must be keeping it on. There's no reason not to keep it on,
Are you
right?
talking about?
Keep it on.
To Howard,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah, repetitive is good here.
Yeah,
That's
Well, I
what we
mean,
used to
the
do.
agency, last year we had sent this to HPD. And the response was agency does not support and cannot accommodate. They specifically said to remove this request.
But CPC said, do not remove it.
Let's see.
I wouldn't remove
Could I
it.
just jump in on that? Because actually the remove this request was a drop-down menu that the city planning commission put into the form that they sent to the agencies.
Okay.
So it isn't the words of the agency.
Oh, they had to pick.
Right, so
Okay.
because a lot of us district managers took rather umbrage at the
Yeah, it's a very,
first phrasing of that. But that's not
it's not, they didn't type some known
Right.
type, remove
You'll
it.
see some of them, they have remove this, and then they'll say, we'd love to talk to you more about it. So it's a little bit of schizophrenia.
Oh, okay, all right. That's a good explanation on that. Actually, they all say remove request.
I know. But,
They can ignore it. They've been doing it so far.
and the people at CPC said, no, don't take it off, don't take it off.
Yeah.
Yes, did DCP, Department of City Planning,
Yes.
Yeah.
did they say that in respect to them or in general for all agencies? Do you know if they were?
It was in respect to them, but in general.
It was kind of, it was their take on the process in general, the process being a flawed process. And that, it only happens once a year and that there's not much discussion that goes back and forth, but that there was a benefit to repeating the request.
Yeah, so like that answer.
It's not just falling on deaf ears, so.
No. Now, the next one on our list was Hudson. Square
Rezoning.
The effectiveness of the Hudson Square rezoning, right.
To do a study?
Yeah, that was actually also a very robust and good discussion, I thought.
Similar to what the Municipal Art Society did for the Long Island City zoning and
Right.
Brooklyn.
Right. And we had a thought to also add in the Soho NoHo rezoning as well. Now that we're
I
starting
think
to
that's
see
good, yeah.
the effects of that. And it looks like just judging by the past couple of months, activity is definitely starting to
Yeah,
increase in that area.
yeah. We don't really want to be right. Not really.
And we were able to point them, we were able to explain that we are not, this community board is not in opposition to affordable housing, and how many things that we negotiated in Hudson Square that blew up. The Duarte Square development,
Yeah.
with the Google, which is on the edge, but that we had negotiated hundreds of units of housing and affordable housing, and also just in general, the fact that we wanted housing in Hudson Square, we didn't get it. But don't blame us. We don't want to be blamed. We're doing 388
Well, the
Hudson.
market does what it wants to do too.
I know, but then they disparage us.
Well, we can't have that.
No, exactly.
Especially when all good intentions are clearly spoken of.
Exactly. So Soho, NoHo. So rezoning studies.
Yeah.
I think, for some of that stuff that we're challenging them to do it better. And I think that they misconstrue the challenge that we're making to do it better as opposition. And that's what happened in Soho NoHo, even though we see movement that's happening now. It took some time, but it's the same thing with Gansevoort Square, right? We're challenging them to do it better. So a lot of what we challenge is misconstrued as opposition to what we see as not great. It could be better.
That could be. That's true. But another piece of it, Carter, is that they look at our numbers and say, you're not building any housing. And then we have to say, yeah, but we're welcoming it, but it's not getting built, but it's not because of us. And so we're trying to.
That's right, but that's why we want them to look at the Hudson Square rezoning, because Hudson Square has not produced anywhere at all the housing that they had projected. And instead it has produced, as we've discussed ad nauseum, is a significant amount of commercial office buildings.
Right, but
So,
it was,
so that these rezonings are consistently not getting the results that the city wants. They're all one or all another. In downtown Brooklyn, is a prime example of that, is predominantly housing without the office towers.
Yeah, it showed the
David?
In
opposite.
Hudson Square, it's the same thing, predominantly office buildings and corporate headquarters and not residential.
Yeah.
David?
yeah, when we did Carter, if you recall, when we did Hudson Square, Mayor, who was in Bloomberg, did not want us to put mandatory affordable housing into that program. And when we gave the incentive of an upzoning, it was so poor an upzoning that nobody really went for it. And so I don't think that the city really ever wanted affordable housing or even housing in Hudson Square, because as I've said 1,000 times, if the city wanted to have affordable housing, we would have affordable housing.
That's true.
So I think it would be appropriate to add in the Soho NoHo rezoning to that request.
Yeah.
And we'll reword parts of this to include the what year is it now that it happened? 2024? 2024 Soho NoHo rezoning?
Oh, no, it passed in
Oh, yeah.
21, December 21, December 15th.
Oh, has it been? Okay,
2021.
right, that's right, okay.
Day of infamy.
And just to Sean's point, it's important to note that in the next year, or that fiscal year, when it's funding, it'll be the 5-year, it'll be the 50% mark of what the goals of the rezoning are supposed to kick in, which I think is the 10-year mark.
Yeah. It's approaching. And, Andrew's put together a lot of good data on that. Which one is next?
The next for us was the number 15, which is the data set of rent regulated.
Yeah. I mean, they were sympathetic to that. I think they said they would like to have that themselves. And they said, send that request to CPC and HPD, even though we maybe got a negative answer.
But I think on that, we discussed this a year ago, and the reason we didn't get it, because that's really a private entity's looking over tax data. We're asking somebody to extrapolate that information, but the city is not in a position to release that information. The state is not in a position. In the data sets that we've seen before, for example, from George Jane, is coming from tax information. So they won't release the individual information. No matter, we can keep asking it 20 different ways, but now we're asking the city to do something that really private entities have done when they actually have the other information themselves already. So it's a strange request in that respect.
Well, why do you think it's a strange request?
Well, they won't release it based on some privacy information, right? So the way that the
I don't recall
information,
that that's the case. I mean, it's tax roll
all we
information.
discussed this ad nauseum before. It's all been extracted based on the tax data that the city collects and the certain markings that the landlords put down. That's where
I don't think
all
there
of
are any privacy issues related to that.
Well, they don't release it. So, I mean, we can keep asking, but the state, which maintains those records, doesn't release it. So what we asked for and discussed extensively last time was trying to get this information, but in a workaround way. And the reality is somebody just has to go through and scrape the public tax records, which are
city-owned tax records.
Well, they may be, but they also have the other information, but they're not going to do it backwards. I just don't think they are releasing that.
Well, they said to request it of HPD and DCP.
Yeah.
And forget finance and forget OTI.
No, but
So-
that's my point, is that we've asked it from those other agencies and they won't release it. So,
Well-
so if we want the information, which is, we should just be pushing somebody else to start collecting it, not the city, or ask HPD, but they're not going to release it. They've already been clear about that on the
Well,
granular level. So
I think it's okay to keep, I mean, I think it's one of those, just like you said, right? We keep asking for this, we get some clarity about who it should go to, because I think last time we talked about this, there was also a little bit of lack of clarity on, are we talking to the right agencies?
Yeah.
And I think to Carter's
can you
point,
just remind us more about what the discussion was?
last year when we were discussing these requests, I think we had a pretty verbose discussion about what the right agency was, and are we going to get this from the state level or from, what different sources?
And we knew they both didn't give it to us. So that was why we asked them to look at it differently, and they still won't give it to us. So
but we
Well,
didn't
no,
have
well, that's when we added the Department of Finance, because previously we had not included the
Right.
Department of Finance. I mean, since that, looking at the private data set that was done, as a result of like some private citizens scraping the data, right, we saw that the Department of Finance data was one of the sources for that information. So that's when we decided to add them to the request as an agency. That's my recollection of our discussion from last year.
Yeah.
And I think if we go back and look, we'll see that that's when we added the Department of Finance to this request.
The fellow.
right,
who-
and that's my point, is that the other agencies won't release the information, and Department of Finance is already releasing information from which that can be extrapolated.
The fellow who he spoke to seems to be in charge of reading all these things, and he said, put it in. Even though I hear what you're saying, Carter.
But it wasn't his agency, right? So he's telling us to ask the other agency, which
He's
we've asked
he's saying
before.
ask his agency as well. So I take him at face value. He seems,
Or they make a special work group. Somebody has to, it has to be like an individual
Right.
task.
I mean, I think we know the data is available from city sources, right? Because the city sources are what we use to create, the data set that ultimately Andrew Berman used and other people have used. We're asking that to be done more programmatically by the city so that we don't have to rely on one-off scrapings of this data that, that it doesn't get updated.
No, but what I'm saying, all that information is,
If you could let me finish, Carter, it's not a data source that's, continually updated, right? It's a single point in time. So even though we have the benefit of that data source from, private citizens scraping up the data, it's not something that we can count on as a moving.
yeah, but Eugene, what I'm saying is, do you have any idea how these agencies work for rent regulated units in New York City? Who oversees those and who are they registered with?
Well, I
And
mean, that's the
they
problem,
are.
right? Is that the rent regulation is by the state.
Right, and they have that information. The point is that they're not willing to release it on a case-by-case basis in each of the buildings, right?
well,
They're not willing to do that. It's
I know.
not a question of them not having it.
Well, they have
And
punted
what-
it back to the state level,
but
right? I mean,
this
that's,
fellow said, didn't
Right.
this, the conversation in which Nicholas said, we have many requests from community boards for this, and we need that pressure from multiple requests
Mhm.
to help us answer this. Isn't that what he was talking?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
they-
I mean, that's what I want to make clear, is that they are saying that we will not release this information. People seem to think that this is hidden information, right? That's somehow not available, but this is all each year is updated through the
Yeah, but-
state, through the landlords, et cetera. And
They were welcoming this request, Carter. They
Okay,
thought that it
right.
would help.
And we might find that to be determined incoming administration might actually prioritize this, right? They might actually direct these agencies to invest time and resources to comb through the various data sources and speak to the various agencies at the city and state level and make this.
but the data doesn't need to be combed. It's
No,
there.
I
They're
understand.
just not releasing it, is the point.
Yeah.
what
we
the discussion
understand.
that we had last year centered around having a different avenue to getting the same information.
Well,
And
the
that
data
different
is-
avenue was the Department of Finance, which is where that information has come from, because it is a releasable data on each of the buildings registrations, right?
That's
In
the
credit,
workaround, right? The Department of Finance data is the workaround.
Right.
And we have found that that is a workaround because that's the source of the data set that is used. It's not a perfect data set.
That's right.
I think it's also comes into play when evaluating rezoning.
Mhm.
Because one of the things that concerned us with the Soho NoHo was the loss of affordable housing as opposed to the increase.
The net
Because of
loss.
demolition of buildings and whatever else
Yeah.
techniques there are for deregulating.
Right.
So I think that's a key ingredient for the zoning, the evaluating how successful zoning is, if that's rezoning, if that's our goal is to build more affordable
To
housing,
protect
and
that
while
and-
we're
right.
losing it, I think that would be good to know.
The one building that is now going to be, the 5-story building to be occupied by a single family.
Yeah,
In a 3 or 4.
no, I know, but that's New York money.
Yeah, but we're losing.
So just as a comment on that, one of the things,
You can occupy it if it's for your own personal use. Who needs,
but that's a separate issue that
is
was dealt
separate.
with outside. And the key remaining issue that's different in Soho and NoHo is that all of the loft law units have a slightly different provision than regular rent regulated units, and that the first tenant in them is still able to be bought out. And that is not the case for regular rent stabilized apartments. And that's because of the fixture fees that are associated with that. And that's why we still see the pressure from the landlords, and they can permanently remove a unit from rent stabilization because the loft law has that slightly different provision. The context of the discussion of having people leave through demolition wasn't from loft law buildings, that was for regular rent stabilized buildings. And the example of the buildings were outside of the M15A and M15B areas that were used for that. It's an important topic, but it shouldn't be confused in with the specific issues that are tied in under the loft law.
So
It's very-
let's take a look at, I mean, let's think about this and put aside the fact that the rent regulated units is a function of state law. Do we agree that this is a data set that is useful for us to have? That, that without this information, we struggle to, I'm just asking the committee, like, is this a whole?
Yeah.
Definitely. I think especially in today's climate, what we're doing to get more affordable housing is pretty drastic. And why would we let any of the old ones go?
Right.
It's not
Unless it was for
increasing
even
it.
more, right?
Right. If it's
Unless there's a net-
increasing it,
And making sure that people were able to. keep
good
it.
point,
Yeah.
I'm
definitely.
agreeing with Anita on this. Thank you.
I think that what we might want to include in our request is the production of statistics that are not granular to individual buildings. And so if they tie into something, for example, by zip code, I'm not sure the state keeps track of the community boards, right, that buildings are in, but something that would work into being able to see statistics released on the changes year over year. Because ultimately, those are the numbers that we're interested in. And those are the numbers when we looked at the one study that was done for, was it Community Board 8, that had a pretty extensive data set in there. What was interesting is looking at it community board compared to community board. I don't think it went too much more granular than that, but I don't think that's an unreasonable request. And I don't think that that runs into any issues that any of the city or state agencies should have a problem with releasing data on. because that's a statistic as opposed to the individual building level.
I seem to remember at one point seeing it by assembly district. Rough numbers by assembly district because it is a state situation. But the assembly district isn't 100%. So it was hard to,
Well, this is our wish
Yeah.
list. I mean, I think we should put it in terms of what is the data set that we
The
want.
city should want it too, by the
Right.
way. I mean, more than just us. This is like a basic piece of information
yes.
Right.
And-
that a way to evaluate the success of not just people making more money, but also providing affordable.
I mean, let's not negotiate against ourselves at this
Yeah.
point. I mean, if, I don't like,
need all
I don't
the
think zip code is the best set of data set. I mean, you know, when we look at the census data, for example, census district also is not like a very good correlation to community boards because it's just not. So why don't we ask for what we want? And, you know, instead of asking for what we think they can give us,
Right.
Okay.
it's our wish list.
You're right.
Okay, so and then, so that is, now, we also had on here loft board request,
Number 25.
yeah. Are we still
So
interested?
this is a study units converted to rent regulated residential. Asked the New York City Loft Board to create a report identifying the number of units that have been converted for commercial and manufacturing to rent stabilized residential uses since the creation of the Loft Board. Report should identify building level details such as house number, street name, BBL, BIN, and community district, and identify all units that are still in the process of conversion. The response was that HPD defers to DOB and the Loft Board in order to consider a request such as this.
So we redirected this year.
So, and last year we had requested it to the Loft Board.
But I don't think we've ever sent it
For
to.
one quick second.
Sure.
I'm sorry to interrupt. In previous years, you'll note that the numbers on these are not sequential. They're 14, then 25 and 37. And that's because up until this year,
Mhm.
when we did expense on one side and capital on the other,
Yeah.
it was one unified list for the whole community board.
And then we had
So-
picked.
So, right, so you were, interstitial, there was a parks request or,
Right.
some other kind of, that's not the way we do it starting this year.
Oh,
This
okay.
year it'll be by agency, which gives us, especially in your discussion right now, it gives you
Yeah.
two advantages. One is that you, in one of these requests, I forget which one, you directed it to one agency, OMB said, no, we're gonna send it to somebody else.
Right.
And you got one response, which was, no, thank you. And you got it from an agency different than the one you asked for. Now it's by agency,
Mhm.
which means that when I'm putting this in,
Mhm.
I can put it in 3 times to the Loft Board, to HPD, to,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
because that, if I understand them correctly, that's the way this works. And then the only other thing that you might want to keep mindful of is, in addition to agency-specific requests, and, you can change the wording on these things as you will, and
Right.
perhaps your conversation with the folks that you met with at DCP will generate some good thoughts about that. But there still is the top 3 needs of the whole district.
Right.
And that will be decided, I believe,
At exec.
at exec, but you may want to go to exec with an idea of which or many, which
you
one or
advocate
more
for, yeah.
you'd want to advocate for from there, and be able to say that that came from your committee, not just, was the exec.
Yeah, and
Anyway,
Okay.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, that's helpful. Yeah, I think we've struggled in the past with which agency to direct this to,
Yeah.
right?
yeah,
I'd
Yeah.
say do all of them.
yeah,
Well, here we go.
The issue with that last request is that many of the records were destroyed in a fire. And so and also there are no new units being created on it, right? And then also you have the exception of the specific loft unit, if it's the original tenant for the loft law, which is not the same as the co-ops and condos, right? That the original tenants, again, you can end that rent regulation for the original tenant so that that unit is removed from rent regulation, despite the fact that it's put in, it is a very specific and unique case. And I think that Frederica had kept advocating for this, but it is work that is very difficult, I think, at this point to recreate historically because those records were destroyed. But all the protected tenants at this time are protected. So I'm not sure for the loft board, they may be able to spend considerable time on this, but to what end does that information help us?
Is it still relevant?
Right. And is it more important to make sure that there's a list of all the current units, but then again, we're back in the point, well, they're already protected, and will they share that individual unit level data with us? So I just put that out there as what are we looking for? And is this a circular request that will inundate an agency that's already
Understaffed.
has a lot of issues, right? Understaffed, et cetera.
Is there still a, loft board tenants group? I mean,
Yeah, I think.
yeah,
And they still meet. And
I mean, I don't think they should be the ones who have the list.
the tenants group.
Don't they know?
Why do we need this?
I'm just, that's an informational
Yeah,
question.
in
I'm
this,
not-
I'm
in
just
this year,
curious.
and like in this moving forward, why do we need this?
Yeah,
We just had an example of that building.
On Bleecker.
Yeah, that building on Bleecker where they were claiming that there were loft people there and not there, and that they were able to do things in that building. And Carter said, how do they know when those people aren't there? I mean, there's so much
I see.
confusion.
Gotcha.
Well, that's
Yeah.
my exact point, is that they were all bought out and the loft board cases were discontinued, is my understanding.
But why was it to the advantage of that developer? What was the advantage that developer was getting or using?
What they claimed is that all the people who lived there and a number of them in square footage that was included to us had never claimed protection from the loft board. So
And
you
yet-
had units that were subtenants of other tenants that claimed protection from the loft board, but the primary leaseholders had never sought that protection, is my understanding. And that's the convoluted and complicated situations that loft tenants have gone through the years. And in this particular case, we had two things, right? One was, are these protected units? And they never finished that process. And the second was, well, just because somebody lived there illegally, it was never claimed. So now you're claiming it's residential when it was never claimed for that, and it's supposed to be commercial, but they're saying it's not. So this is playing both sides in that particular case.
So Carter, if we had had, let's say at some point we had the request, the city agency or what, an agency had produced this report that we had asked for, would it have been helpful in our discussion for Bleecker?
That's a great question. And I don't think it would have been, because the loft board cases had not been fully educated.
Right.
And as a consequence, those units were not protected yet.
So even if this request had been fulfilled, it still would not have helped us there. So, I mean, that kind of shows maybe this request is.
From
Is-
my
am I
understanding,
framing that
that's
correctly?
correct.
Request is what? I didn't hear.
I mean, if,
You dropped your word. This request is.
I guess
Shows that
he's.
This request
is missing something, right? I mean, this request is kind of a partial request if it doesn't get us all the way there to a case that just came before, an actual real world case that came before us.
The Wild West, this was not all done neat and tidy back in the day.
Right.
And it wasn't finished. I don't know, I just wonder what the usefulness is specifically, because it's a very unique situation.
Yeah, and this is a very, very specific request. I mean, now that I look at it, right, it's a very specific request that we asked for this report. And it still wouldn't have helped us fully on the one case this year.
We
Maybe,
don't
maybe
know.
not.
We don't know.
And I guess in response to like Carter's comments,
Yeah.
do we even know this exists? Like, have we spoken to DOB or the law board to say, is this even, can it be produced?
Well, there was this fire. I mean, we don't think it can be produced.
So as much as I love data, right? As I would love to have the data, I think that's the kind of concern. Is this even possible?
Is this a fruitless like request?
Our primary issue with the loft board and the loft law is that there are these buildings in limbo, right? And what we've asked for, and people, and we don't even know if the tenants want this, but that are in limbo, but the request has been to finish the process and for the landlords to bring the buildings into legal compliance and remove them from the IMD status. So that's been people's goal, I believe, through this process of since the passage of the first loft laws. And remember, Soho and NoHo are not actually subject to the original loft laws, because it wasn't until 1986 that the loft law coverage, because of the artist certification, came into play, because the loft law did not require you to be an artist. The zoning required you to be an artist.
Because we have JOWQA, that kind of.
That's right, which was unique to only Soho and NoHo's M15A and M15B.
Right. There's nowhere else in the city that has units that are subject to loft board jurisdiction. Like
No, that's not true. There are many units that are subject to loft board jurisdiction all through the city. Right. So
without the artist certification.
It wasn't until I believe it was 1986 that Soho and NoHo that was changed so that you had protection in Soho and NoHo for non-artists in
we were grandfathered. What happened?
Yeah.
In one word.
Yeah. I mean, is the loft board more relevant now for like places like Brooklyn that actually still have units that are going in a conversion?
You know, I have a Soho Line's phone line, and we get complaints about everything. I can't remember the last time I got a law request.
It's been such a long time.
It's not on the front burner. I don't even know if it's on the back burner any longer. So no.
Should we include this in our request or mention this in our request for the Soho
Let's get to the
zoning
point.
study? You know,
Well, especially if it impacts it, that we should say,
All right.
yeah,
as it impacts the
yeah.
zoning.
So maybe that would keep it somewhat alive, but
Refocus.
I think that the key to all of these requests is understanding displacement, right? And that's what the request is the underlying issue is displacement and keeping track of displacement.
Arturo,
And the changes in the housing laws was in 2019 or whatever year that was. The ultimate final goal of that was to stop displacement, which was to make it virtually impossible to remove housing under the emergency rent the original rent stabilization from being removed from that while there was a housing emergency.
yeah. Okay, we'll come back to that. We'll
I think it should be a sub-chapter of the other, so it has more ways to
More
move,
relevance or-
more useful.
Yeah.
okay, so that's good. We have language and move it to a different spot. And then the last one was Oh, this list, which we,
Which one is that?
well, I don't know what number it was.
That's fine, which I don't think it's this one.
Four.
It's our new 4.
Expense budget,
Oh, the new list. Oh, okay.
okay. So that would be asking for a list of government-owned properties
Oh, right,
as potential sites for affordable housing.
right.
And, you know, we had we've tried to get this
From the city.
city,
I mean,
City-owned property.
didn't the Manhattan Borough President's Office essentially
Yes.
compile a list?
did it include federal?
In our community.
Well, they included the.
But it's
postcards on
surrogates.
Canal and Church.
Yeah, I thought since within the last year, right, they had circulated
Yeah.
that spreadsheet, and we only had several properties in CD2, but, right, I thought for all of Manhattan, they had compiled a list of,
So we're going to take this off then?
I mean, let's double check that assertion
I remember that federal post office
was on there.
Yeah,
Maybe we want to know
Yes,
more
certainly would
information
find.
about those that were identified. I don't know if there's
Let's see,
something
we
we
can-
can ask about that.
Arturo, can you do you think you can do a little pulling up of such a list? You have,
Well, I mean, we have the list of all the city-owned properties in CB2,
Right, that was part of the, like,
Right,
the fellowship study.
but I'm not familiar with this state and
can you look at Manhattan Borough President
which one, or?
report, government properties report maybe?
Like, I thought it came from Lizette at some point,
Thought it came,
from Lizette. I don't think she works there yet still, but
oh, no, I don't think.
Mark, didn't we get didn't Mark Levine's office circulate a list of properties that, I thought that was like
It
one
was
of the,
his State of the Borough
that's right, that's
address
right,
last year.
right.
Want me to call it up? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, that would be good to have.
Housing Manhattanites, identifying over 73,000 potential new housing units across Manhattan.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
That should solve all of
Yeah, let me,
it.
but I mean, it's very sparse in CB2. I'm just looking at it. So it may not be the one that y'all are thinking of.
Well, it is sparse in CB2.
Yeah, I don't, they're not going to create it. I mean, yeah,
Yeah, no, we
there's
don't
not
have that
many.
luxury.
If it's this one, but I'll send it around.
Okay, so would you like me to review what we said last time that we wanted to put on the list?
Sure.
Okay, study of the Hudson Square rezoning, that stays on. But we also wanted a holistic study of meatpacking in the light of Gansevoort Square, right? We just discussed it. We
Mhm.
like dollars, dedicated dollars for George James. What's interesting, Eugenia and I had a conversation today with Connor Allerton. And reflecting on this issue. He got wind of the 30 Thompson and the 285 Hudson Street affordable housing matched up with the West Broadway market rate. And, you know, he's a planner and he did a one-page zoning analysis?
Analysis.
Yeah, so it would be nice for us to have that happen before we make decisions, you know, like we get something, George could help with that. I just thought it was very helpful.
I mean, we have, technically, community boards are supposed to have access to planner, like a certain number of, I don't know if it's by hours or anything, but I mean, we're supposed to have access to land use
Expertise,
personnel.
yeah.
We've never had that actually happen.
And Andrew
Well,
Berman
Is
recently.
that allocated in here?
Well,
We need to allocate the
put-
money.
Yeah, I mean, Andrew Berman recently hired George James to analyze the
he did?
building on 13th Street, a block through 13th to 14th, which we thought was as of right, but George, on deeper analysis, doesn't think it is. And so Andrew's, I don't know, is he submitting a protest, to DOB over it?
They did.
You think so?
We did put some kind of
For the
protest.
school, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just think those are things that underscore, the helpfulness of this
Yeah.
sort of thing. We also, we're talking about a study for sites that are eligible for HDFC conversions, such as 244 Elizabeth Street, and, we have 30 Thompson and 285 Hudson, which are going to be HDFCs. I don't know if we
Potentially.
still, I don't know what I think about that one. I'm not as hot to trot on that personally. And we did have a question about enforcement. Do we have enough money for enforcement of any of these things?
Enforcement by which
Of what?
agency?
Maybe it's, I don't know what our
DOB
conversation.
enforcement or?
Yeah, probably it's.
Here's an idea of just hearing, and I think that what George is doing in the challenge, right, is I think that, and this came up in another case with the liquor licensing situation, maybe what we need to advocate for is some sort of ombudsman or something within these agencies that can better handle challenges to a lot of the more complicated requests. And this seems to be happening more and more because of the value of the underlying real estate.
Yeah.
And they're able to put forward very complicated applications that address a lot of questions, but I'm not so sure that if there was additional scrutiny from somebody who may not have wanted the same result, that those applications are entirely correct, right? So that
Yeah.
seems to be the real issue that's happening now, is that you have tremendous resources applying for something without an ability to properly review those requests.
I mean, I understand the sentiment, but I do wonder if we are essentially saying that we don't think DCP has the capability to review these applications and, adjudicate them based on law.
Well, there's many of them are self-certified. So there is no review because they're self-certified.
Yeah,
There's no burden of proof, really. I mean, right, it's just.
the 13th Street people said it was as of right.
Exactly. So there is no review because it's self-certification.
And the Bleecker Street one as well. I mean, there was no avenue for us to challenge that.
That's right. No, they were coming to us as a courtesy, and everyone was a little surprised when we were saying, oh, wait, we don't like this. Well, that
I
was a
think we'll see
shock.
more of this as we have more as of right applications, right? Because there is no official review process for these.
And we're finding out they may not be as of right.
Well, and I think that the other issue is that many of these agencies are mayoral agencies, right? And the way they go about doing their work, not to undermine them or question them, but there is an aspect of, how, to what level do you scrutinize applications if you're trying to determine the resources of your agency? So if you're going to fully accept self-certification and not have a process of auditing those self-certifications in a timely manner, then you're not going, there's going to be a lot more leeway in the self-certification process.
I think I actually lean more towards that comment that you're making, Carter, of like encouraging a study or audit of the self-certification process rather than advocating for an ombudsman to do that.
Yeah.
Well, I think that the cost of the challenge is what silence people, because there's no way, just what Eugene said, there's no way to put in the complaints unless you retain a very high level knowledgeable folks to put in a detailed challenge. And I think that that's what makes this hard process when people don't believe that the proper outcomes are occurring through this. So
Well, I would still advocate more money for George, for us to hire a George Janes person. But I don't have any problem with recommending, audits of the self-certification process as well. But that's something else. I don't know, that's like a recommendation, not a,
Well, the stakes are so high, there's so much money involved that there's a lot of reason to mold it to what you need it to be. There's a lot of incentive for
And
that.
there's a lot of money that they've spent, an applicant has spent, right? To
Absolutely.
get to that point where. it
Zoning
comes
lawyers are
before us.
very expensive.
Right. So, I mean, the odds are stacked a bit against us, right? I mean, they have a team of lawyers that have looked at it.
planners and
struggle-
engineers
And we
and.
struggle to get it reviewed from,
No,
someone
it's
that is.
complicated. And especially in New York City, there's so many variations and referendums and bulletins. And
Right.
you can go forever.
Right.
And make it what you need it to be. So that's not, we're never going to have that much money, I don't think, to fight that, but
Okay, so
it doesn't mean we can't raise a concern and ask what can be done by other agencies.
Mhm.
Maybe we can turn it around, but we don't need it. We are not going to challenge it. But maybe we would like to know what the other agencies are challenging it or really looking at it.
well, we do have to, I actually see too, I think we do have to do something about challenging because we have to give an opinion. So I would like the resources for a good opinion while
Okay.
saying that the
Advice.
agency, I think the audit of the certification process could be a good argument to make. We haven't made that argument before.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think these are two separate requests. I mean,
Problem with that.
there's a general request for money for us to engage the services of such as a George Janes.
Right.
Right. And one of the reasons for that is because we would like to be able to evaluate the merits of an as of right application when it comes before us. And we can even reference specific applications where we found issues that we wanted to further investigate or have an agency follow up on, but there was no avenue,
Oh, good.
right? Short of us issuing a resolution and getting an agency to.
Yeah.
But I think that avenue, the case for that avenue is stronger when we have that record of this is where self-certification has failed us,
Mhm.
right? But I'm complete support of like asking for a planning expert or budget for a planning expert to help us do
Yep.
those types of analyses.
Yeah,
I mean-
I think I think that's,
that's
we're on the
Okay.
same page with that. I think the ombudsman or whatever, this is a new kind of. type of
And
request.
I'm working with another group and we've been asking for an ombudsman for years. And it's requiring state legislation, not that this would, but it's like, it's a nightmare to
Mhm.
structure this request for the ombudsman.
So I'll give you guys an example, right, with self-certification. When you do it right, your self-certification stands, no matter how much you audit it, it still stands because you go through the stepping stones to get it to stand. So for example, if you submit a ZRD1 and you outline your facts and they accept it, it's done, right? It's concluded and they've given direction. And the point is how can you challenge that, right? But once this process is approved, it's all in a very complicated stepping stones. So it's very hard to challenge things by challenging the self-certification process because the process is what's followed. The question is at what steps are people accepting what's submitted? Because it's all building blocks to get to the final approval at the end of the process. So the self-certification is not necessarily the problem. It's the review of it and
Review of it,
critical
exactly.
junctions of the process. So, and look, you wouldn't be able to conduct business, right? If you couldn't get certainty at initial points of a project that an agency is going to accept whatever you're presenting to them is correct.
Got it. Thank you. And I am also thinking about this building that's sort of to Anita's point, this building that's going to go up at 26 West Broadway. Connor has calculated how big the lot is and how much space they're going to put in. And what does it come out to, 30 stories? That's a 9,000 square, it's a 9,000 square foot footprint, and it's a $238,000 volume.
It's pretty high.
Yeah, it's a really big building, and it's
West Broadway and where?
Thompson.
No. West Broadway and,
Go to that parking garage, the
The parking garage backs up onto Thompson Street.
west side,
West side.
Broome
Yeah.
and Grand.
Oh, yeah.
Grand.
Room, yeah.
But it's
south of
outside
Rome.
any landmark district, right?
it's right outside.
That is not landmark. That little
It's outside of a historic
Yeah.
district.
Why is it not? I thought that side of the street was later, was landmark.
Not, for some reason,
Not south of,
Not that.
Also, that parking garage, I mean, there's nothing really,
pretty ugly buildings.
like old manufacturing.
But that's, that's a big building.
The link to it is in the chat too.
Okay, thank you.
okay.
So I sent it via email. So.
All right, so this.
But it only has two buildings. It's 388 Howard and 2 Hudson, or 2 Howard.
2 Howard.
Two Howard and what?
388 Hudson.
Wait, Two Howard is the cross on Lafayette. Right? Yeah.
Okay.
Doesn't have the list that I generated is
Doesn't have
more
fancy
expansive, and then it doesn't have the other. I think there's definitely a more expansive state and federal list. I just don't know where it is or who sent it.
Okay, it has 2 Howard right here. Federal government, parking garage.
Right.
Okay. Okay, so now what are we, I guess one thing is at exec, are you empowering us to keep 2 Howard on the top of the community board list? Because it was really,
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's going to be what, we need to convince everyone at exec that it's a CB2 priority, yes.
yeah,
But I would like to continue for us to advocate for that.
yeah.
It would be significant if that was turned over, and we know that that's going to take time.
Yeah.
Right, even if they started now, it's just such a
Well, it's also a
long
big,
process.
fantastic thing.
Right.
Yeah,
Can really happen. I mean, amazing.
exactly.
That's worth it. That's a positive.
We should put it in context of the city budget, right? And that's setting aside the appropriate funds to explore and acquire and take the steps to initiate the acquisition of 2 Howard. I mean, that's the way it should be framed, right?
Mhm.
Because this is what we're asking for, is for funds to be allocated to the end result.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
So you can't start the process and then go retroactively to look for the funding. So we want to put it in those terms, that this is the beginning process, so that the initial funding is done, so that that could be pursued. And then that accomplishes the same goal of saying this is a priority, also that we can state to other folks that it's also a priority.
Yeah, I mean, if the-
But ultimately, the 2 Howard is that the city has to want it and the federal
Right.
government has to give it. Right?
Yeah.
So, but this is only to the city government.
Right, and.
Yeah, our request is only to the city, but you're right, there needs to be a group of people at the city level officially looking at this and trying to make this happen. It can't just be an advocacy. It's not going to happen with
concrete
just
step. I like
advocacy.
that.
Right.
Well, our opening sentence last time was allocate sufficient funds for the city to acquire ownership of 2 Howard Street. And for the development of 100% affordable housing. So that was our request, a funding request.
So maybe we should expand it to explore, or some other language at the very beginning of that, because we don't need it fully funded, right, in the first step, but we need the funding to allocate dedicated people to pursue that
It's true,
goal from the
so-
city in a non-discretionary fashion, right? I mean, that's what we're asking for.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, this needs to be a city priority for it to happen, and they need to start, having an exploratory committee to look at the feasibility of this.
The feasibility and study and
Yeah.
numbers and all that. There's
Yeah.
a lot of work.
Right, and identify people on the other side at the federal level who are going to be counterparts who are
Well,
receptive to this.
don't ask tomorrow. Sorry, a little cynicism there. But,
I mean, there were reports about, the GSA selling some properties potentially. And I think some of those did include Manhattan, but, that was also early on in the administration.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, don't they want to reduce their balance sheet?
okay, so that stays at number one, and last year, the study was high up on our list, and so we're expanding that,
We're expanding that to include the Soho NOAA rezoning.
right? And then we've got our rent regulated study. Are we, where did we land with the law board?
We need
That-
to rephrase this or reframe this in terms of, in terms of,
Is it separate, or did we put it in the Soho no rezoning?
I mean, those are the two options. We can make it a part of the Soho NOAA rezoning study in terms of identifying displacement.
Yeah.
Okay.
It has more
relevance that
value.
way.
for us, I think.
That's really the end goal for us, right? We just
Right.
don't want the data set for the sake of having the data set.
Definitely not. No,
Okay,
no, I don't.
okay. And also-
I speak for myself.
And also, for the rent regulation to prevent displacement. That's pretty big for both of them.
Displacement, and also it's a way of keeping this rezoning accountable.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, lofty goals are fine, but if
Yeah.
you're losing more than you're gaining, it would be a good
Keep
fact
accountability.
finding.
Should we combine then the
Accountable.
rent regulated data set and the law for data set into a single request then? Because I mean, both of them are geared towards displacement. I mean, maybe we could do it that way.
I think I worry that it dilutes those requests
combine
because
them?
it feels like they're completely different data sets. And then there's like a lack of clarity of like, should we even do this? Because one is coming from, the state and tax rolls, and this one is from a mysterious place that we don't know if it even exists. Yeah. That is, potentially under-resourced to even prioritize this.
Mhm. What about the idea of putting it as part of the study for the Soho NOAA rezoning?
I think it's fine to include it in and just ask, like, we're interested in displacement, if you could access this data.
Displacement and increase.
Right, no,
I mean, that's the
And-
bottom line, I think, is we want to hold the development accountable to what they sold it on.
Right, but we were going to
And
get
I
an
think
increase in
we're going to be in
affordable
for a big
housing.
surprise.
Uh-huh. And where do we?
We could even bring that example of Bleecker. I think that would be a good example to justify why we're interested in the rezoning, specifically in Soho NoHo.
That there we're seeing a loss of X many,
And because we don't have that data set.
we don't actually know.
And for example, the little section in Chinatown,
Right,
those were all these very rundown old buildings, and there's
right, could be
Most
15,
likely
20,
be-
30 rent regulated units per building, right? We don't know.
there's a lot of loopholes. I mean, again, we
Yeah.
won't have to but there's a
those are
lot of
the-
ways to get around it, and
Yeah,
it
demolishment.
hasn't moved the needle at all. Possibly, hopefully not.
No, wait a minute. This is expense.
Yeah, we have the expense and capital.
So where
So
do we
the
want
two
to
Howard
put?
was on the Capitol side.
Yeah,
right?
the 2 Howard is definitely on the Capitol, but where do we want to put George James? Because that's an expense. And where do we want to put him in priority with the zoning studies, which, and rent regulated studies?
Well, maybe he should be up front because it'll give us guidance to all of those things.
What do we think about that,
Maybe-
Lisa?
Second one
I-
or first one.
Definitely, we should include him as much as we can.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because,
that would make the most
No doubt.
impactful.
yeah, this is
One.
very specialized.
Yeah, and he
Yeah.
knows.
Okay, there's a group.
This would definitely change our, like, our day-to-day.
Access to information.
Well, also being able to, yeah, and also be able to answer committee questions,
Yeah,
right?
no, it's
Instead of
essential.
just,
That's absolutely, that's.
Okay,
my
so number
priority.
one,
For
expenses
sure.
on
Funding
expense.
George James.
And then the other thing.
Seriously,
Stay where they
yeah.
are.
I
Okay,
like that.
okay.
okay,
Because, simplified understanding is not good, and most of us have that. And meanwhile, a seasoned, professional
Right.
know that.
Yes.
yeah, they'll be able to
absolutely.
quickly zero in on the issues for
Right,
us.
right.
It's not what's, black and white, there's a lot of
Right, so
layers.
not what we're being presented either.
Not the
Exactly.
rom-com of
Exactly,
zoning.
exactly.
Okay,
Okay,
are we good on that?
I think we're good. Is everyone agreed?
Yeah.
Is this good? Okay,
Good talk.
online, okay with folks? This ordering? Okay, I
Take
think it
that as a
sounds
yes.
good.
What
Okay.
about the district needs statements?
Well, we have to revise them. Yeah, Arturo took a stab at it, but it needs even a little bit more work than that because it just hasn't been redone in a while. It seems redundant. You saw.
There are
that.
parts that are exactly kind of verbatim repeated.
I know. So, I couldn't figure, I got lost because it was.
Yeah.
I think we should get it shared to the committee.
Yeah.
So if it's in a
Okay.
Google Doc,
Oh, sure, yeah, I'll do it now.
okay,
Okay, that sounds great.
all right.
And then we'll do a little, we'll do a lot of work on, needs a haircut.
Can we do the?
New business, yeah.
Yeah.
So are we good with this?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
All right. Let's move to new business. We do have someone that joined us and they would like to raise some new business with the committee. So
why don't you come and
if you
sit
could
over here so you can get,
come to the table
so you can get
and
in the
make sure that
microphone.
we have a microphone that captures. If you could
Is that it?
introduce yourself.
Well, hi,
Let us know what you'd like to bring up to the committee.
okay. My name's Deborah Thomas. I live at 300 Bowery, which is between Houston and Bleecker Street. And it was a loft under the loft law and it's now rent-controlled, stabilized apartment. The whole building is. There are 4 flights. There are 3 families on the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th floor. And the ground floor and the basement is part of Chef Restaurant Supplies, which are 294, 296, and 298.
And
It's
there's
a
that
single
pet
story
store,
building,
too.
right?
The pet food, the pet store is there also, right?
No,
No, this is south.
that's the corner of Lafayette.
That's not.
Oh, it's not-
Yeah.
298 is a single. story.
Happy Paws.
It's a
Yeah,
single
yeah,
story
yeah.
building, 298?
I guess you would
No,
know.
it's-
4-story.
I
It's a
know.
298 as well as a 4-story. Okay,
Yep, they're all 4-story buildings. 300 Bowery is the first building in the historic district.
okay.
Okay,
And Chef is our landlord. And they recently bought, and didn't buy, but there was, I think the brothers split up and one got one building, one got another. And the plan is to create a 12-story apartment building above their buildings.
on top of your home.
Not on top,
Behind.
no, next to. This is, oh, actually,
Oh, where the landmarking changes?
this is our building, and this is Chef, these 2 buildings. According to the only document I could find where they actually told the block number and the lot numbers, they used lot number 82 and 83, and our building is lot number 82. So we put a FOIL request into Landmarks to find out if they could tell us the status of 298 and whether or not 300 is actually part of this. Because it seems like it is according to the architect's plans that he submitted.
Do you think he's going to take down your building?
No, he can't take down the building, but he may.
On top.
Build on
build
top.
A 12.
Built on top of a little row house.
A
You can't-
12-story on top of a 4-story building?
Nothing but structure.
How could they do that?
That wouldn't
You can't.
support a
It won't work.
12-story.
No, it's a masonry building. It's a
But do they have,
masonry area
they
building.
have applications into DOB?
Well, we've been looking for them and we can't find them.
Where did you find these documents?
I found all this accidentally. I came across an article saying that our landlord was building this plan. And there were articles in Crane
Okay,
and a number of other places talking about this 12-story building that's going on top of these.
4-story.
But which buildings they're going on top of, it's not quite clear. So
Nice.
sort of a mystery.
Hmm.
That's why we filed the FOIL thing. But it seemed to me that the Department of City Planning should know something about this, but we haven't found out anything. And also, the property is now commercial and it would become residential. And whether or not, who's in charge of that? I mean, I don't
That's
know enough
now
about
allowed.
all this.
I think that's now allowed as of right.
Is as is or something?
as of right. I think with the rezoning, that is now allowed as of right. Previously, it would have required.
Just so you guys know, this
yeah.
is in Soho.
Yes.
This is not in Soho and NoHo.
Oh, this is not.
This is in
okay.
the special Little Italy zoning district.
This lid?
Oh,
Oh,
Their
okay.
buildings are, but 300 is historic, in the historic district.
No, the zoning district and the historic district do not go together. The M15B begins on the north side of Bleecker Street and does not include south of Bleecker Street.
So it's really Little Italy?
By zoning.
slid.
I zone.
By zoning. And so that would negate it being part of the historic district?
It has nothing to do with the historic district, but I believe that that property was not included in the
Zoning.
NoHo East Historic District extension when that was created in the
97.
2009, 10, or whenever it was created.
Yeah.
Have you spoken to Andrew Berman and the Greenwich Village Society for Village?
Village
It's called
preservation.
Village Preservation.
No,
I mean, he will have a lot to help. He will be able to help on some of your questions
okay,
about the preservation.
yeah. And how do you,
Sir, can we just see some of these things?
oh, sure.
I'm happy to give them back, but I've just.
Oh, yeah. This is the lot numbers. This is what I found in the article.
It's like it has a seal on it, Anita.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
And that's where it shows that our building 300
Think about that.
part of the 12-story apartment building.
Okay.
8283, lot 8283.
I'm looking it up on Zola and,
521.
I was gonna say, you should say in the DRB even.
they're right. It's in the historic district.
Yeah,
It is-
well, 300 is, yeah, I think.
Yeah, 300, exactly.
298 is, yeah, it is
That's
coming up.
divided.
Special district is, it is Little Italy.
I had taken a look at this when this was reported a number of months ago, and I think that from the plans, and it's not conclusive at all, but the plans and correlating them together, and from the snippets of the plans that were in some of the publications, that it looked like it did not include 300 Bowery, and it was the Chef buildings to the south that that are actually the restaurant supply business itself, which I believe if you look at the buildings, you can see they're not the same buildings, but it doesn't mean that there's not confusing paperwork, particularly if the same family has owned these properties for a long time. And I know that that's the case just from other buildings that I've looked at in this area, and there's a lot of tax lots versus property lots. There's definitely some confusion, but it looked like a number of years ago, a new entity, I think if you look on Acris, had been created to take control of these properties that looked like a new partnership in order to do this development. But I don't have any of that information right in front of me. But Acris is the city registry of property ownership. And I think you can see the property changing hands there. If you look on DOB now, I think that you might be able to find some of the initial filings that are on there.
I don't see any but I'm looking at the three. I'm looking at 300 Bowery.
Well, you wouldn't see anything under 300 because I don't think that's included in the development.
Yeah,
It would be under 298.
yeah.
Correct.
Well, is it, Deborah, is it your understanding they're planning to build on top of the existing?
That's
building?
correct. That's what the article said.
Article in Cranes, he said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not what the diagram shows.
The diagram shows.
Yeah, no, it shows the bottom of the buildings and then.
The one, isn't that the 4-story building on the right?
Yeah.
That's her.
No.
Oh, yeah, this looks like 300 Bowery. I think.
Yes, 300 Bowery, although I don't know why it's shorter than the.
Because it's not being built on top of.
There are
showing.
there are building filings on DOB now
Ah.
for 298 Bowery.
Or is that usually not?
Thank you.
The
Yeah.
filings, part of you said?
Yeah, there's a alteration
that
application that's
probably- yeah.
proposing a vertical enlargement of the 4-story building to a new 12-story mixed-use building with existing elements to remain. They're going to obtain a new certificate of occupancy, so.
So you think they're trying to build on top, Carter?
Well,
Yeah.
they are building on top, but it's 298 Bowery and south.
96.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
294.
Those, are-
But I think.
if anything, those have no facades. Those have
I think-
already been
I
modified.
know it's hard to say, but I don't think.
Sturdy enough.
think that they're making changes to your building.
Anita doesn't think they're sturdy
No,
enough.
they have to build a new.
Have to build.
It's a completely different kind of structure. You can't go up. You put steel and,
I can do it.
they could do it, but I'm just saying, you don't build on top of it.
No.
Independently, and you leave a little facade.
Right.
Oh, okay.
But
That's
why
how
would
that,
they-
but that has nothing to be, but
but why would they even keep a facade?
I don't know that they will if it's not
They
valuable.
don't need to.
Yeah, they want to build up. That's what they.
All they're doing is showing a 4-foot mark. That's like a building setback. That's
Hmm.
like just tipping your hat.
Oh, okay.
The other
Not.
other question is
To the
whether or
street.
not, in nowhere did I see any affordable housing units.
Really? Gosh. Darn.
You know,
Good point, though. We
yeah,
should,
I mean, that neighborhood, is skyrocketing. So. Well, I'll try again to find the information.
Well, Carter said it's filed. He saw it.
Yeah, I could not find the files there, so I'll try.
file, do you mean at the DOB or at
I'm
the,
on DOB now. There are some filings for 298. But it's hard to tell real quick.
Yeah,
Okay, so-
And you have
so-
to-
Yeah,
Next
to
step is
open
for
each
you-
one,
Yeah, I
there's
know.
4
To be in touch
filings.
with
Down
Andrew Berman.
road.
okay.
Yeah, on the phone,
It's
nonetheless.
so hard.
See,
It's so hard on the phone.
Also, I'm not as
And the other
with DOB now.
question is, if
Yeah,
there's
they changed it. I know.
right next to us, and we're in a historic building, which is very fragile. What
They
does
have to
that
put
mean?
monitors,
Monitor?
seismic monitors.
I would
Motion
approach
sensor.
Village Preservation. I mean, they may be interested
should
because
definitely call
of the
Yeah,
historic, you are the 300, your building is
Yeah,
within the historic district. I would start there.
okay.
okay, take
Yeah.
this number down,
Do you need-
212
Yeah, do you need a contact?
475.
Yep.
9585. And extension 38.
Tell them Katie sent you.
Yeah, right?
Exactly.
Is your building a co-op?
No, it was a loft conversion and now it's rent stabilized.
Oh, and it's owned by the.
Oh, look at, perfect.
No, I was listening.
We have one data point.
And the other two buildings?
The other two tenants are also,
Rent
No,
stable.
but the other two buildings, the ones that.
They're commercial.
300 and
they're all commercial.
If
Shuff.
you look at the.
298 is all commercial,
Upstairs.
If you
yeah.
look at the pictures, there are like boxes
Oh,
in the
yeah, but I don't
window.
know.
And you said there were
Yeah,
three
yeah,
families.
We live in anything in New York.
You said there were-
I mean,
You said there were 3 families. Is it 3 total in the building or 3 per
That's it.
floor?
It's,
Oh, one per floor?
Yep.
Okay.
And then what's on the bottom again?
It's chef
Commercial.
supplies.
Oh, they also.
And
It's a restaurant.
also their basement. And they actually opened their basement, our basement to their basement.
But they drove
Oh,
through.
that's gonna make construction even more tricky.
Yes,
I don't. think you
I know that.
understand the
I don't envy you. if they,
I hope they filed that connection. That's why buildings collapse
Oh,
I,
it's
quite often.
party wall?
Sure.
Oh, you did find that, okay, good.
That's
So,
good.
what else can we recommend in terms of, the building, the
Maybe,
new
maybe
construction?
they could talk. Are you in, Chris Marte's district? Who's your council member?
There
That's,
is no council member.
that's Harvey Epstein.
Oh, there's,
It
yes.
will be Harvey Epstein, but
oh,
there's
that's right. You were Carlina.
No, and I was trying to think of his name because we have a meeting with him next week
Good,
about this.
good.
Okay.
Oh,
All
that's
right.
good.
Okay.
Yeah.
good.
Okay. You know what? Can you come back next month and tell us how that goes? You know,
Absolutely.
that-
Yeah,
I think-
or we can give you our contact information.
Yeah,
You
we'd
can
like
also
to keep in
let us know.
touch with you about this.
Sure.
Okay,
Oh, good.
Okay.
We'll give her a contact.
Oh, thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
That was helpful.
oh, thank you
Just
for
to
coming.
talk about it because you worry so much about.
Of course,
Right.
it's
Well,
frightening. It's
now
frightening.
put the spotlight on it
Yeah.
because
Yeah,
that window
exactly.
moves very quickly.
Do you have Mark's contact
I
information?
do not, but I
Okay.
can get it, I
Two
bet.
one
Yeah, maybe if you could email him and we
nine
could just,
seven
he could keep us all in touch.
272
2272.
and 979. I memorized. What did
All
I?
right.
979.
Thank you for coming to our
Thank you.
meeting.
Thanks for all the
Deborah.
work you guys. do.
8:09.
Thank you, everyone.
We
All
were very,
right, we're gonna adjourn the meeting. Do I have a second?
Nice.
All right.
We'll be happy.
All right, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good
I
night.
shared the DNS Google Doc and I'm gonna share the list of city, state and.
Oh, from the previous.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you
Thank you.
for coming.
Are you coming tomorrow?
Oh, to landmarks, yes. I'll be
I
zooming
will-
in. I'll be zooming in. Yeah.
He wants to know whether.
Yeah, I wrote back to him. Yeah.
Okay, good.
I just
He's
did
got
it
me
private.
doing his bidding.
Oh, I did it. No, I emailed privately, so.
That's fine. I don't need to know. I just